O'Donnell. O'Donnell, aye.
That bill is out.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your
That brings
patience.
us to item number 2, Senate Bill 238. Senator Mitchell.
Good morning to you, Mr. Mecca. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. I'm here today to present SB 238, a bill that will bring much-needed oversight and revised processes for the use of psychotropic drugs in our foster care system. Data is not readily available to social workers regarding the actual medications being taken rather than those that are prescribed to youth in the foster care system. And sometimes this regimen of drug treatment includes multiple prescriptions that may interact negatively and also may include prescriptions at dosage levels that are inappropriate for the age, weight, and developmental stage of the young person. Finally, we believe it's important to ensure that the observations of youth and caregivers as well as social workers are taken into account in managing not only their medication process but their overall mental health treatment plan. This bill is a part of a package of bills introduced in response to a very troubling trend and several recent reports on the over-medicating of children in foster care with various psychotropic drugs. So in short, SB 238 attempts to do 4 things. Number 1, it calls for the development of the state departments of social services and healthcare services to develop monthly data reports that will match prescription and claims data with child welfare services records that will be shared with counties, the courts, children's attorneys, and their court-appointed advocates. Secondly, it requires the development of a system that triggers an alert to the practitioners receiving the data reports when potentially dangerous interactions could occur based on various medications being prescribed. Thirdly, it updates a court form, the JV 220 form, to provide opportunities for key stakeholders, including the child themselves, to provide information and feedback and to provide details on the overall mental health treatment plan. Lastly, it mandates training for physicians, social workers, foster kids, caregivers, all the key stakeholders that are in this child's life regarding psychotropic medications and what we know about them today. Frank Mecca is with me today with the California Welfare Directors Association to speak in support of the bill, and I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. First witness, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Frank Mecca, Executive Director of the County Welfare Directors Association, on behalf of the county agencies that administer the foster care system on your behalf. Your analysis and the author's description of the bill are pretty comprehensive, and so I won't go into sort of the bill specifically. I'd just like to say that this is an important measure, and our members are really pleased to sponsor it. We're concerned about the over-medication of foster youth, and we are the parents of these children. And legally and morally, we become the parents of children that we take away from their biological parents. And in a sense, we co-parent with the courts and with foster parents and with relative caregivers and with the attorneys who represent children. And we all have a role to play in overseeing the well-being of kids in our care. What we lack right now is a lot of good information about the types of drugs that youth are taking, possible dangerous interactions with other drugs, possible sort of alternative treatments that the youth could be receiving in lieu of psychotropic medications. And so what this bill does is arm us to act like good parents, the way any of you would if you had a youth that had a mental illness or issue that required or perhaps potentially required psychotropic medication. You'd want to learn everything that you could, and you'd want to ask every last question that you could so that you could exercise your parental obligations with your children. And we think this bill will help all of us, the practitioners in the child welfare system, exercise that duty as well to the benefit of the youth in our care. And so for that reason, we urge your support for the bill.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if you would allow us, we've got several young people who are the youth that we're referring to, and if you would allow them all just to take some time to share their story, I'd appreciate it.
I will.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Rochelle Trottenberg, and I'm a youth organizer for the Humboldt County Transition Age Youth Collaboration, and I'm also a former foster youth that was in the system for 6 years. During that time, I had close to 20 placements and a list of diagnoses and medications. When I emancipated at 18, I was on so many medications that I could not manage them myself. Throughout the time I was on those medications, I experienced many adverse side effects that often went unchecked. I had significant weight gain, gaining more than 100 pounds in less than 1 year. I had severe lethargy to the point that I couldn't talk or keep my eyes open, and I had severe and persistent tremors that are permanent and that I still experience today. Throughout my time in foster care, there was a significant lack of monitoring and oversight of the medications I was prescribed, and rarely was I offered any other non-pharmacological services to help me overcome the abuse and trauma I experienced as a child. My experience with medications has had a significant and lasting negative impact on my well-being. SB 238 is a step in the right direction to ensure that foster youth get appropriate and effective care, and I want to share with you 3 reasons why I believe you should support this bill. There is a significant need to enhance the ability of all the professionals and caregivers that are to be watching out for children in foster care. We need to provide effective and regular oversight, making sure that all caregivers, judges, social workers, state and county administrators can track and be informed on what medications a youth is taking and possible side effects that accompany these drugs. Second, SB 238 is critical in monitoring and oversight to ensure that youth are offered a comprehensive array of non-pharmacological treatment and services, as well as accountability mechanisms to ensure that those services are being provided. Because medications alone are not the silver bullet and should absolutely not be provided without that broad array of interventions. Third, SB 238 adds important changes and safeguards in the court process and in the JV 220. This bill will assist the court in acting in the best interests of children and youth in foster care by ensuring that the youth's experiences and medications and treatment are shared with the court and taken into account in decision making. The court is one of the last stops for protecting us as foster youth, and SB 238 strengthens that safety net and the oversight for children in foster care. You will hear many opinions from a lot of people on the issue around psychotropic medications, but I ask you to remember that these are mostly paid opinions and that the only voice that speaks from the heart is foster youth voice. And I urge you to remember our voice in your decision making. SB 238 is a step in the right direction to providing comprehensive oversight, monitoring, and accountability to protect the most vulnerable population of children and youth. And I respectfully ask for your vote, a yes vote for SB 238.
Thank you. And for the other youth, since I'm going to allow a little bit more testimony than normal, just tell us your story. There's support recommendations on both sides, so I don't think you need to convince us to support the bill. Not necessarily everybody's going to vote for it, but it's got a pretty good chance. So just spend a couple minutes to tell us your story.
Hi, my name is Tisha Ortiz. I'm a former foster youth. I was on 12 pills a day, and I believe oversight would really help with kids like me who are taking a lot of medications. So I'm really in strong support of this bill.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shaniqua Arrington, and I started taking medicine when I was about 10. And I'm strong support of this bill because I didn't have people monitoring my medicine. And it led to a lot of health problems. So I think it's important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cole Vanway. I'm from Humboldt County. I'm a member of the Behavioral Health Board as well as the Humboldt County Transition Age Youth Collaboration. And I can tell you that at the age of 4, I was prescribed psychotropic medications and at very high doses. And it took till the age of 10 when I moved. I spoke to a different psychiatrist who had said the doses were actually lethal and I was taken off. So that to me is very alarming. These things really need to be monitored, and I can tell you that later I was prescribed many other medications and I have all kinds of problems, which I'm not going to get into, but I strongly support this bill.
Thank you. Next witness.
Kathy Dressler, in strong support of this bill.
Thank you.
Oh, Children's Partnership, sorry.
Great. Thank you. We do have a motion. Is there a second? We do have a motion and a second. So others in support, if you could just give us your name and your affiliation, please.
Hi, Anna Johnson from the National Center for Youth Law. We're proud to co-sponsor this bill. Thank you.
Nicole Wortelman on behalf of the Alameda County Board of Supervisors and Ventura County Board of Supervisors in support.
Sarah McDade-Ting on behalf of the California State Association of Counties.
Tim Morrison, Children Now support.
Trillian Voris on behalf of the Urban Counties Caucus in strong support.
Brenda Dabney with the Children's Law Center in strong support.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support? Anyone here for opposition? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the committee. I want to thank you, Senator, for bringing this forward and for the testimony of the youth. Back to my days on the school board where we saw a lot of kids who were given Ritalin, and it often seemed that it was more for the convenience of the parents and for the system rather than for the child itself. And I fear that a lot of the data around psychotropic drugs is very similarly situated, and I appreciate the Welfare Directors Association, and we are collectively responsible as parents for these kids. And when we're administering effectively chemical restraints on these kids without taking a deep look at the need, at alternatives, then it really ultimately becomes for our convenience, not for the child. And that's, I think, where we need to make sure we're moving the entire foster care system to, is for the benefit of those children. Specifically, we saw Ms. Senator Moning's bill earlier today. I appreciate the package that's coming out of the Senate. Any other comments? Mr. Chu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to first take a moment and thank the young people who are here for your testimony. It is incredibly important as we consider this issue. As I said earlier with regards to Senator Moning's bill, the evidence has been overwhelming of the over-medication of young people in our foster care system with psychotropic drugs. It's incredibly alarming, and I, too, am very grateful for the senators and their leadership on this issue. I'm happy to be a co-author of this bill, and along with Assemblymember Garcia, happy to move this forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments, questions? Senator, you may close.
I would just say very briefly in closing, I think you all did a fine job of presenting the elements of the bill and in closing. And I would just say I want to applaud you for your courage. None of us are ever expected to come before a panel and talk about something that's deeply as personal as challenges we may have experienced in our lives or medications we were prescribed or medications we may take today. And so for your courage, I appreciate that. And I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. So the motion is due pass to Human Services. Call the roll, please.
Stone.
Aye.
Stone, aye. Wagner.
Aye.
Wagner, aye. Alejo. Alejo, aye. Chow.
Aye.
Chow, aye. Chu.
Aye.
Chu, aye. Gallagher. Gallagher, aye. Garcia. Garcia, aye. Holden. Mainshine. Mainshine, aye. O'Donnell. O'Donnell, aye.
The bill is out.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Committee. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. That brings us to item number 9, our final item for the day, SB 761. Senator Hall.
Hey, Sean.
Good morning.
Good morning. Or is it afternoon?
Nope, still morning.
Still morning. Good morning. It feels good to be back on the green carpet. You all look great over here. Mr. Alejo is still... I'll leave it alone. Whenever you say so, Mr. Chair.
No, please go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Chair and Senators, SB 761 will require short-term rental companies to disclose on their website or mobile application that a tenant listing a room or unit for rent may be in violation of their lease and may subject the tenant to legal action, including possible eviction. SB 761 will also require potential hosts to acknowledge this disclosure prior to the listing of their short-term rental online. Over the past few years, there has been significant growth in online companies that allow people to rent a room, an apartment, a home on a short-term basis. Unlike homeowners, tenants who list their rooms or units create a host of potential problems for the property owner and neighboring rentals and tenants, while at the same time potentially violating their own lease and subjecting the tenant to legal sanctions and possible evictions. Currently, some tenants may be subleasing their apartment or rooms and be unaware that they are violating their lease. This legislation will help protect tenants by encouraging them to check their lease or rental agreement to make sure they are not in violation. Short-term rental websites are a great part of our growing sharing economy and a valuable tool, obviously, to all of our travelers. But properties listed on these sites should be in compliance with laws and contractual agreements that may limit the use of the property to third parties. SB 761 provides tenants with the important information about the potential legal risks of listing their room or unit on a short-term rental website and will help ensure the long-term stability and growth of this segment of the sharing economy. I respectfully ask for your aye vote, and we have Sean Apikian from the California Apartment Association present to testify in favor of this important piece of legislation.
Thank you, Senator. Your first witness, please.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, Shanta Pakian on behalf of the California Apartment Association. We are in support. SB 761 basically protects and educates tenants about the risks of listing on short-term rental websites. I think it's important to understand that there is a significant distinction between a homeowner who lists a property on a short-term website as opposed to a renter who does it in an apartment community. In California, landlords do have the ability to evict tenants for subletting, although this is never the preferred option for an owner. Oftentimes, the liability and the safety risk associated with short-term rental websites really requires the owner to move forward in that process. And many tenants, understandably so, may not know that they're not able to sublease their property because most of our leases are required to be about 25 pages long, and tenants may have not read their lease in years. So ultimately, this basically provides a short and factually correct disclosure, and we think it's going to help tenants protect landlords against liability, and really a win-win for all. And we ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Next witness, please. Nope. All right. Anyone else in support? Is there any opposition?
Hi, Greg Hayes with KP Public Affairs on behalf of Airbnb. We technically have an opposed position, but we've been working with both the bill sponsor and the senator. It's been a very collaborative process. We're working out one sort of final technical amendment and look forward to removing opposition, and we appreciate the process we've engaged in so far.
Thank you. Anyone else in opposition? Seeing none, back to the committee. Questions, comments? Senator, you may close.
I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second? And a second. The motion is due pass. Call the roll, please.
Stone?
Aye.
Stone, aye. Wagner? Aye. Wagner, aye. Alejo? Aye. Alejo, aye. Chow? Chow, aye. Chu? Chu, aye. Gallagher? Gallagher, aye. Garcia? Aye. Garcia, aye. Holden? Mainshine? Aye. Mainshine, aye. O'Donnell?
That bill is out. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
We do have one bill on call. That is item number 5, Senate Bill 308. If you could call the non-voting members.
Alejo? Garcia? Garcia, aye.
That bill is out. I'll keep the rolls open for a little bit and let anybody add on as necessary.